History of Dark Age 2, Episode 3, Elseborn. Prologue, The First Sound. Cartomancer, Evelyn, and Version 2 step through the rift and into Else. The air around them is haunted by silence so deep it feels alive, pressing against their bones. The world itself is wounded, jagged rifts of color tear across a black sky, pulsating slow and uneven like a dying heartbeat. Every surface around them seems half-formed, as though reality is a broken mirror. Their bodies rebel against this place. Evelyn feels ice crack through her veins under a scorching phantom heat. Her frostbitten skin crawls, and memories rearrange themselves in the corners of her mind, whispering in languages she barely recognizes. Cartomancer's pulse hammers through shifting contours on his skin, the ancient ink of his tattoos bleeds faintly now, tracing new constellations across his arms. Version 2's synthetic heart skips a rhythm as circuits stir, sensing algorithms warping in the emptiness. Each step forward is agony and wonder intertwined, as pavement stretches and contracts beneath their feet and shadows bend into impossible forms. In this haunted quiet, all at once they hear it, the first sound, a single, distant pulse of thunder rolling through Else's expanse, like the world itself catching its breath. This fragile sound cracks the spell of silence. The haunted dimension stirs with it, and the travelers know in that moment that they have truly arrived in a realm where memory and flesh alike will be twisted into nightmares. Chapter 1, Breath Between Worlds. Else is a breathless void of marvels. Vast, floating ruins drift between a sky of swirling indigo and crimson, spires of unknown architecture twist and hover without support, defying gravity and reason. Time itself seems untethered, clouds march backward while the sun pulses at noon and dusk in a single moment, raining light both cruel and comforting. The air tastes of old winter, of rust and cordite, of impossible dreams. It is silent and screaming all at once, as if the world is holding its breath. At their feet a river moves of its own volition. It flows upward from valleys and coils around boulders like a living serpent, dark water glinting with a strange phosphorescence. Reflections dance on its surface, pale faces of people long unlived, and memories of tragedies never born. Cartomancer feels the river's pull as a whisper in his bones. Cartomancer raises a hand, and across his tattooed skin new ink appears. Ancient map lines, etched in swirling silver and midnight blue, bleed gently down his arm into a luminous chart. He does not have to speak the words, the paths are drawn on him as surely as muscle and blood. His eyes flicker with understanding as the glowing map reveals a distant monument, a broken gateway carved with the bones of gods, half buried in mist and mold. Here, in this hushed cathedral of ruins, they set their feet on a path they cannot yet comprehend. Chapter 2, The Architects of Else. They walk until the air thickens, and then the world changes. Before them rises the architect, a titan carved from bone and midnight mist, eyes glowing with the dull light of dying stars. Mountains of ruined cities seem small at its feet. Its form is impossible, a giant of geometry and flesh, limbs merging into columns of ancient stone, a crown of broken sundials floating around its head. It does not speak, it watches, omniscient and patient. In the silence that follows, the architect's presence penetrates their minds. Visions unfurl behind their eyes. Cartomancer sees ink blot out maps he has not yet drawn, worlds sketched and then raised. Evelyn glimpses her own past unwritten, thousands of futures where the white forest either burned or blossomed. Version 2 experiences a universe where logic is law, and then sees it collapse into paradox. Together they understand, this place is made of the failed and the forgotten. Images coalesce. A graveyard of moments. The architect shows them Else's truth, a tapestry of timelines that never lived. Each glimmer in its eyes is a possibility snuffed out, cities drowned by seas that never rose, empires that died as embers at dawn, children who were born and died on the same breath. The knowledge settles in their bones like ice. Else is not a battlefield but a tomb, forking paths that ended before they began, woven into this dimension's flesh. The architect, patient and distant, stands guard over these silent echoes of time. Evelyn shivers as if hearing a million silent farewells. Cartomancer's tattoos writhe, ink flowing faster. They take one trembling step back into the ruin, carrying heavy the weight of what they have seen. Chapter 3, Skins of Echoes. They find a hidden archive, a vaulted library carved from scarred bone and silent flesh. Walls twist with rows of preserved bodies, each corpse skewered and splayed like a grotesque tome, skin stretched tight across the stone shelves. Hollow eyes stare blankly, lids sewn with prophecy-laced glyphs. The air smells of formaldehyde and memories. Evelyn runs her fingers over the nearest spine, the skin pulsing at her touch, faint letters shimmering beneath wet tissue. Something in the room shifts. The library itself seems to breathe. Evelyn's vision clouds and melts into a memory snare. She hears the laughter of children she never had, sees a moment lost to time. The walls hum with unintelligible whispers, reciting words she feels but cannot hear. She stands transfixed, her heart pulled sideways by an echo of herself. Version 2 knows immediately, the machine does not hesitate. He steps forward, metal fingers clamping hard on her shoulder. With a swift motion, he tears at the nearest body tome, pulling flesh from stone in a single wrenching snap. The lined prophecy burns across Evelyn's vision even as it is ripped away. With a cry lost to the silence, she is pulled free, stumbling back as if emerging from water. The skinned shrine smokes where it was torn. Evelyn stands trembling, slick with the specters of borrowed memories. Version 2 steadies her with a cold, unfeeling hand. Around them, the corpses whisper on as though awake, secrets slinking beneath their stitches. The travelers step back from the library's altar of doom, hearts pounding with the horror of what might have been, and of what still could be. Chapter 5, The Whispering Veil. Location, Else, Threshold of Echoes. A pall of twilight folded itself across the land as Evelyn and Corvin stepped beyond the mortal world. Grey mist swirled like ghostly veils around broken pillars of light and shadow. The air was heavy and silent, save for distant murmurs that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere. Shapes moved at the edge of vision, a shifting column of smoke that maybe sighed, a pair of flickering eyes glinting in the haze. Evelyn's hand found Corvin's, his fingers gripped hers gently, grounding her in this impossible place. Where once there had been clear earth and sky, there was now an infinite void of grays and bruised purples. Trees with crystal branches jutted from the ground, dripping glowing sap that sizzled against frost-touched air. Corvin brushed a finger over a thorned vine and drew it away before it snapped at them. Else bends the very air, he murmured, his breath visible even without the cold. Evelyn nodded, her eyes wide, heart thrumming at the sight of this world beyond her reckoning. They walked together, as one gliding shadow and one pale figure, into the veil's heart. With every step, Evelyn felt the memory of her old life slipping, like fragments of cloud behind a dark curtain. Corvin sensed her tremble. He drew her close for a moment, pressing a hand to her chilled cheek. "Stay with me," he whispered, scarcely audible over the soft sighs of the veil. "Even as Else calls us, I remain at your side." Evelyn dared a nod, hesitating beneath Corvin's steady gaze. The mist around them coalesced into a faint, mournful face, a phantom of a woman with hollow eyes. The ghost parted its lips as if to speak, but the words were lost in the hush. "What do you see?" Evelyn asked in a low voice. "It sees us," Corvin replied. He reached into his cloak and produced a battered deck of cards, its edges worn and pages flickering with strange, silver light. "These are my allies now." He laid one card between them on the ground. It bloomed like ink on water into an image, a crimson stag with antlers of flame. The phantom shrieked and dissolved into ash at the sight. Evelyn exhaled, steadied. Corvin offered a small, uncertain smile, and Evelyn returned it with one of her own. In that silent greeting, they found a spark of warmth amid the endless cold of Else. Together they stood, fingers intertwined like vows, and ventured onward into the heart of the Whispering Veil. Chapter 6, The Drowned Garden. Location, Else, Hall of Mirrors. Else's path wound downward into a garden of shattered dreams. A silver moon hung at midday in a violet sky, its reflection trembling on black pools that mirrored unseen constellations. The air smelled of rotten roses, of decay and dawn entwined in an impossible union. Something rustled behind Evelyn, she whirled as a wall of glass erupted, cutting off their way. Dozens of their own faces blinked back at them, each warped by nightmare, one grinning with rows of teeth, another weeping black tears of ink. Corvin stepped forward, drawing a card from his deck. He did not meet the reflections, instead he spoke Evelyn's name in a calm, steady tone, as if to reassure himself. "Be brave," he said, placing a hand lightly on her arm. "These are echoes, illusions of else. The real danger lies still ahead." Evelyn clutched his hand, anchoring herself to his warmth. A single tear, blood red as a dried petal, slid down her cheek. "I fear for you," she confessed, voice trembling. Corvin hesitated, then pressed a soft kiss to her brow. "Even if Else offered me the world, I would not leave your side," he answered, voice low. The mirrors shattered, scattering shards like fragments of night. Corvin laughed softly, and from his fingers cards fluttered outward. Each card unfolded into a ghostly bloom of silver light that hovered in the air. Starlight gathered around them, forming a dim maze of thorny hedges and twisting paths that guided their steps. The drowned garden bloomed with crystalline flowers that wept dew of pale starlight. Evelyn and Corvin walked between them, hand in hand, as if through memories of things long lost. Underneath a bough of spectral black ivy, Evelyn paused. She felt Corvin's breath against her hair as he leaned close. She tasted the salt of reassurance on his lips as he held her gently. "Tell me again," she whispered, "why you sought me." His lips curved in a sad, gentle smile. "Because your name was a prophecy in the cards," he said softly. "Fate guided me to you." Evelyn felt warmth flood her chest at his answer. She placed her other hand over his heart, feeling it steady beneath his chest. In that moment, she realized that even amid Elsa's dark dream, their spirits beat as one. When at last they emerged from the garden's embrace, the sky had deepened to indigo. Corvin cupped Evelyn's chin, tilting her face toward the misty horizon. "We make our path forward," he murmured. Evelyn nodded and traced her fingers along his jaw, feeling the rough stubble against her palm. In the hall of mirrors behind them, their silhouettes stood reflected in new unity, no longer fractured. With hearts steadied and spirits aligned, they strode from the hall of mirrors into the uncharted twilight beyond. Chapter 7, of Starlight and Shadow. Location, Else, Celestial Spire. Evelyn and Corvin climbed a spiral of obsidian stairs that wound into a sky of midnight blue. Starlight rained like silver tears around them, each footstep echoing with the distant drone of something mournful. At the top stood a cathedral carved from night itself, spires twisting like frozen flame. Below its threshold lay a mosaic of constellations, shifting slowly as if alive. Corvin paused to catch his breath, watching a cluster of stars rearrange into her face, Evelyn's face, its lines of sorrow haunting and beautiful. She shivered, drawing her cloak tighter around her frost-licked shoulders. "This place, it remembers," Corvin whispered. Shadowy forms moved within the spire's nooks, winged statues and silent sentinels. "We have entered the Gallery of Dreams," he said. Evelyn's breath formed frost in the air. "Here, thought and fear become flesh." Corvin placed a steadying hand on her arm. Together they stepped inside. The floor was a lattice of light and darkness, with each step, scenes of sorrow flickered in the architecture, a child lost in snow, a song silenced mid-verse, all around them. Starlight coalesced into a phantom priest who chanted an ancient lullaby. Its voice resonated through Evelyn's bones. Corvin covered her ears gently. "Hush," he said softly. "It weaves illusions to keep us entranced." Evelyn felt sudden dizziness, the room spun with memory and dream. "Corvin. I feel," she gasped, wavering. He tightened his grip. "Lean on me," he murmured, helping her steady. Their hands tightened together beneath the upturned constellations. For a moment, every star in the spire pulsed at their clasped fingers. Evelyn's eyes glistened with tears, not of fear, but wonder. He guided her to a bench of carved meteorite. They sat close, bodies warming against the cold stones. Corvin brushed a lock of hair from Evelyn's frozen cheek. "You protect me even here," she whispered. He answered by slowly entwining her fingers with his. In that delicate touch she felt tenderness that transcended space. "We will leave together," he promised, voice soft as falling dusk. Evelyn's heart swelled. "Even if the stars fall apart," she replied. In silence they watched the phantom priest's figure begin to dissolve, defeated by their unity. The spire's halls grew quiet, awash with starlight and shadow in equal measure. Corvin lifted Evelyn's chin with a gentle thumb. "For a moment, I saw only you in all this dark beauty," he confessed. She smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. The veil between their worlds trembled, yet in each other's eyes they found home. Chapter 8, The Concord of Ash. Location, Else, the Radiant Corridor. Beyond the starlit spires they found a bridge of light spanning the chasm. The Radiant Corridor stretched before them, a tunnel of pale gold that throbbed like a heartbeat. Walls rippled with embers and glass, visions of a world half remembered. Underfoot the cobblestones flickered between ash black and sunrise rose. Evelyn hesitated at the threshold. Corvin pressed her hand firmly, guiding her forward. "It's almost dawn," he said gently, his eyes reflecting the first hints of day. She turned to him, voice catching like fractured glass. Her words failed. Corvin tilted her face until their eyes met, and he spoke the truth neither could hope to forget. "After all this darkness, I have only known you by starlight and shadow. You are my dawn, Evelyn." A warm tear slid down her cheek. They stood in silence, simply breathing together as the radiant corridor pulsed around them. The edge of reality trembled. With every step, memory and new hope converged. A final vision flickered into existence, the charred white trunks of the old forest painted in morning gold, growing upright even in this void. Evelyn reached out as if to touch them, but only air met her fingertips. "Even here?" she whispered. Corvin wrapped an arm around her waist. "Else bends to the will of those who walk it," he said softly. "Together, we will shape its end." He lifted a card, it flared into a fiery blossom. The corridor burst with light, and from the conflagration a doorway of dawn opened at the far end. They crossed together. On the other side they were bathed in the golden glow of sunrise and the slow-breathing world beyond. Corvin eased them to a gentle stop, holding Evelyn's face in both his hands. "We leave as one, then," he whispered. Evelyn nodded, lips trembling with relief and love. He brushed her hair back, fingertips lingering at her temple. Slowly, willingly, she leaned into his embrace. In the new sunlight, they were no longer alone in darkness. The ashes of the ruined forest lay under their feet, and behind them the radiant corridor faded to nothing. Their foreheads met as the morning breeze wrapped around them like a promise. "We walk forward," Evelyn murmured. Corvin's laugh was gentle as dawn. "Yes," he said softly, "forward, into the new day." Knights of the Broken Hour. The twilight sky bled into dusk as the Knights of the Broken Hour arrived at the ruined cemetery. Their armor was dented, and clocks with shattered glass were etched into their breastplates. On broad steeds of midnight they fell silent at the edge of crumbled gravestones. No living soul remained here, only the cold memory of battles and the echo of something like hope. One knight knelt at a weathered stone, his gauntlet trailing through lichen and frost. The inscription was worn away, lost to time. He whispered it, though no one stood near, "Forgive us." A gust of wind answered him, and when it passed, a figure stood at his shoulder. A ghost clad in ancient mail, flickering like a silhouette. Its eyes were distant galaxies of sorrow. It said nothing, but lifted a hand to the sky, and distant tolling bells echoed in the twilight. A knight's voice broke the silence. "They remember," he murmured. Another replied, "They remember everything." They pressed onward, deeper into the mist. Through a veil of spectral fog and leaning crosses, an ancient gate loomed, framed by a broken hourglass whose sand lay still at the center. The oldest knight removed his helm and placed a blood-stained gauntlet on the hourglass. The sand inside began to crawl, as if alive, reversing its flow with a metallic sigh. The air crackled, unseen eyes stared. From beneath the earth came a keening, a rising tide of ghostly laments, whispering names of the lost. "We tread where history sleeps," the young squire whispered. The night held its breath. the horizon of the living world wavered. Only the pulse of the tomb-bound earth remained. The gate groaned open, revealing the Wraithlands, a haunted, shadowed kingdom lost between timelines. The Knights of the Broken Hour stepped forward into its spectral shadows. Wraithlands unbound. The realm beyond the gate was neither night nor day, but an endless twilight, a labyrinth of mist and memories. Silver fog clung to broken towers and the twisted spires of a phantasmal castle that hung upside down like a fallen star. Time had no shape here, footsteps echoed before they were made, and distant laughter came from unseen children at play. Shapes moved in the haze. A cavalry of translucent knights thundered past, their cheers ringing hollow. Garrick caught a glimpse of his father marching among them, sword raised in a smile. His breath caught, until the ghostly vision disappeared through a wall as if it had never been. Coward's trickery, he swore, raising his sword. They pressed on, wary of every shifting shadow. At the crest of a hill, the mist churned. A great beast emerged, a stag of midnight, antlers entwined with clockwork gears, its eyes burning with uncanny light. It snorted, and the very air trembled. The knights engaged. Their blades sang as steel met spirit. Time itself buckled as they struck, moments fractured into shards like glass. The stag's roar spiraled into a chorus of echoes, and from each echo leapt a phantom horseman trailing chains of memory. A gallop of specters, circling. Swords slicing through smoke. The stag's heart of darkness laid bare beneath the twilight. Lights flashed as two knights shared a killing blow. The stag stuttered, its form unraveling into a swirl of faces long dead. One was the face of a young girl, laughing. Another, a widow weeping at an empty cradle. Then nothing remained but silence. The fog retreated. Their breaths visible in the cold air, the knights gathered themselves. Injuries marred their armor, at least half bore the sting of spectral thorns. Yet something in their eyes had changed, awe mixed with sorrow. Ghosts of the past had bled into the present, and they carried those ghosts forward beyond the threshold. Ahead, the castle drew nearer. High walls etched with stars shimmered. Deep within, something waited. Echoes of the past. The halls were alive with whispers, ghosts of the past roaming their chains. Every wall was carved from memory and sorrow, gleaming clocks froze to sinister halt. Candlelight drew faces on the stone, women praying, children weeping, warriors embracing their fate. Each step echoed twice, once in the hall, once in the knight's heart. Ahead, a chamber lay uncovered. At its center sat a throne woven from silver mist, and atop it a figure, a broken king, crown askew, eyes shimmering with centuries of regret. His voice spilled like black water. "So, children of time," it rasped. "You who walk the breach between then and now. Do you know what your vows cost the world?" One knight stepped forward. "We seek only passage," he said. But the air twisted, a corridor appeared behind them, leading back to when they had first drawn breath. A child wept by the cradle, the knight's sister clutched him. The king's laughter echoed. "You left so much undone." Corrupted echoes filled the hall, the footsteps of forgotten heroes, pleas of innocence smothered by fate. The knights raised weapons, but the ghosts coalesced into form. Mirrors blossomed on the walls, reflecting every sin. The king shattered into shards, in each shard the knight's own eyes stared back. Despair flickered on every blade, they had become the hunted. They fought through hordes of the past. A ghostly maiden in chains blocked the path, a specter of a friend turned foe charged from the gloom. Each knight battled an intimate dread. One faltered under the weight of loss and slipped into the memories, vanishing in a sigh of dust. When dawn never came, Garrick stood alone in silence. The fortress crumbled around him, only the ghostly throne remained. In a final whisper the old king conceded, "The Elseborn rise with the dawn, if dawn can yet break." The Wraithlands sighed, and the castle swallowed itself in darkness. The Elseborn. When dawn's light finally spilled over the horizon, Garrick knelt amid ruins. He half remembered falling, everything had grown silent as a tomb. The ghosts were gone, but their sorrow clung to him like a second skin. His blood-soaked gauntlet held the echo of the king's last words. The Wraithlands receded, its nightmares fading like mist before the sun. Behind him, the world of the living awoke, untouched but somehow changed. A bird sang. In the distance, children laughed in the warmth of morning. Garrick's eyes, once grey as ash, caught the first sunbeam. He stood. His heart still bore all the ghosts, the friends and enemies bound in twilight. The silver wheel on his breastplate was cracked, but still turned. In that moment he understood, he had become something else. Elseborn, he whispered into the dawn, born between worlds. And as the sun rose, Garrick walked east, bearing a future etched in both light and shadow. Chapter 13, The Timeless Dragon. Location, the Sundial Plateau, edge of the endless horizon under a sky smeared with bruised purples and strobing aurorae. The air itself seemed to rumble. Aldric and Sabrine stood on cracked obsidian ground, their breaths visible against the cold wind, watching the horizon warp into impossible shapes. The legends had spoken of a dragon that devoured time, its coming heralding calamity and revelation. Suddenly, the air shimmered like a broken mirror. A thunderous crack split the sky as an impossibly vast form unfolded, the Time Dragon. It emerged from folds of reality, scales glittering like starlight and eyes deep as eons. Its wings, woven from midnight and living starlight, churned the swirling colors of the sky into a vortex. The travelers recoiled as light warped around them. Aldric's voice was lost in the dragon's roar, a sound like collapsing galaxies. The creature's maw opened, revealing infinite darkness, and it exhaled something too ancient to name, an echo of destiny that froze their souls. Sabrine fell to her knees, gaze fixed on the empty horizon, shaken by the dragon's overwhelming presence. Aldric stumbled back, heart thrumming. The dragon's head, colossal and crystalline, tilted toward them. A voice crackled through the storm, each word a pulse in the heart of time itself. Time Dragon, thundering, otherworldly you who seek to break the cycle, know this, time bends to no will. Yet time itself remembers. Gaze upon the dawn of rebellion and judge its fruit, lightning forked across the black sky. In that flash, Aldric's eyes saw distant visions, cities rising on the bones of giants, endless wars fought by those born of blood and stone. And at the calm center before the chaos, a silent first rebellion, a lone woman raising a tattered banner of defiance against a fallen god. It vanished as quickly as it came, leaving Aldric gasping. The dragon's eyes, reflecting a galaxy of past and future, fixed on Sabrine. Bearer of destiny's weight, what truth do you carry? Will you wield fate, or be broken by it? The question hung in the howling wind. Sabrine dared to answer, voice trembling, we carry only the memory of those who fought before us. We seek only to honor them. A silence as heavy as iron fell. Then, without warning, the dragon reared back and unleashed an infernal breath. It did not scorch the land, but froze their memories, each thought crystallizing like frost on glass. The siblings saw their darkest fears and greatest hopes reflected in that icy gale. When the wind calmed, the dragon was gone, leaving only scorched stars trailing across the dawn. Aldric and Sabrine exchanged a haunted glance. They had stared into the heart of time itself, and the dragon's words, or was it a prophecy? Bound their path anew. They rose to their feet. The horizon now held purpose, the ruin of the freehold, where an ancient artifact lay buried. The journey continued, the weight of destiny heavy in their hand. Chapter 14, The Banner of Freedom. Location, the ruins of the freehold, Hall of Echoes. Mist crept between broken pillars and shattered statues, coating the ancient marble floor with a ghostly sheen. Aldric and Sabrine stepped into the Hall of Echoes, where the first roar of morning sunlight fell like daggers through the dust. The ruins of the freehold rose around them, once the heart of a rebellion now swallowed by ivy and time. Here, they hoped, lay the banner of freedom, the legendary artifact that could unite or destroy them. They moved carefully. The air was stale, thick with the weight of forgotten oaths. Underfoot, mosaics of radiant kings and fallen gods dotted the floor, their colors long since turned to rust. The hall whispered with an unearthly breeze, as if the very stones breathed sorrow. Ahead, in the center of the chamber, a stone dais bore a cracked bronze chest. Aldric's heart hammered. Could it be that simple? He whispered. Sabrine answered only with a nod, fingers tightening on her sword's hilt. They approached together, shadows stretching as if alive around them. Aldric knelt and lifted the heavy lid. Inside lay a bundle wrapped in night-black velvet, trimmed with gold, the banner of freedom. The cloth pulsed with a dull life of its own. Aldric's breath caught. He reached in and drew the banner free. The moment he unfurled it, a breath passed through the hall, as if exhaling centuries of hope and rage. The banner's crimson field bore a golden winged star, and running scripts in a language older than any living tongue. Its fabric was thin but unterrible, woven with threads of battle and blood. As Sabrine passed a palm over its surface, faint warmth spread into her hand. Suddenly, distant chanting rose around them, echoes of long-dead revolutionaries, the half-remembered songs of ancient rebels. Sabrine gasped, clutching Aldric's arm. She could almost hear voices begging for freedom. "They're singing," she murmured in awe. "We're holding their hope in our hands." Aldric said nothing. His eyes were fixed on the banner. It felt alive, as if a heartbeat thrummed in its folds. In the sudden silence that followed, Sabrine studied her brother's face. A hunger gleamed in his eyes, not for power, but for purpose. "We are bound to this fate," he said softly. "I will not let it slip away." Sabrine felt a pang of fear and something bitter, envy and duty, intertwined. She stepped forward, touching the banner herself. It answered her too, lifting the darkness from her chest, whispering courage into her veins. As the first rays of sun crowned the shattered arches, they raised the banner of freedom between them. In its presence, the shadows seemed to cower and the air grew pure. Somewhere far above, a lone raven cried, echoing a triumph long silenced. Two figures stood beneath the resurrected symbol, triumphant but divided, as the light of dawn revealed a future they would now share, or shatter. Chapter 15, The Bone Avatar. Location, the Crypt of Bones. Under the freehold the Hall of Echoes trembled with the power of the banner. As Aldric and Sabrine stared at its woven destiny, the cracked bronze chest beneath the dais split open with a groan. Dust cascaded from within. Between them, the mosaic floor shattered, a spiral staircase formed, descending into the black earth. They exchanged a glance, old fears ignited. Together, they stepped into the maw of the Crypt of Bones. Torches sprang alight in their hands without flame. Below the temple's heart, they found themselves in a vaulted chamber lined with skeletal murals and ossuaries. At its center sat a throne of intertwined bones and rusted steel, empty except for an ancient helm, tarnished and crowned with rust. Aldric hesitated, but Sabrine reached out and touched it. In that moment the air shimmered. The bones carved on the walls rattled. A hush fell, even the distant drip of water ceased. From the throne, a figure arose, shaped from shadow and marrow. It was a man, yet no flesh remained. A skull with empty eye sockets gleamed beneath the rusted helm, draped in tattered regal garb. Bone creaked as he moved, an eerie green light seeped from his hollow eyes. A crown of fractured ivory rested on his brow. He was the Bone Avatar, their ancestor, risen from death. Aldric and Sabrine stumbled back, pressing against the cold stone. Aldric's hand shook on his sword hilt, Sabrine's torchlight wavered. The Bone Avatar's empty eyes fixed on them, head tilting with curious hunger. "Bone Avatar, voice like wine through graves, you bear the flag of freedom, child. You have awakened me at last. I have lingered beyond the veil, awaiting your coming. Speak, children of ashes. Why have you come?" Aldric steadied himself first. His knee scraped on the stone as he knelt before the apparition. "Great King," he said softly. We come seeking truth and deliverance. We carry your banner, your legacy." The Bone Avatar's jaw clicked in something like a chuckle. "Our legacy," it corrected, voice layered in timeless echoes. "The first rebellion, born of blood and memory. You walk in our footsteps, or stand in our graves. Your hearts decide." He raised a skeletal hand, torchlight dancing over his ancient bones. Know this, power is older than the stones of the earth. Blood alone does not give the crown. You must earn it, as we did, or you will be buried beneath the weight of false hope. Sabrine found her voice. Ancestor, our hearts are weary from strife. Tell us what we should do. How do we honor those who died to raise this banner? The bone avatar's empty eyes seemed to pierce centuries. For a moment, silence answered. Then he drifted toward one of the wall's carvings, trailing bony fingers over faded runes. They will ask why their voices linger, why despite their songs the world grew cold, he intoned. Listen well, for the answer lies in these words of bone and memory. He began to chant in an ancient tongue. It was not melody, but a deep, rhythmic incantation, a dirge carved into limestone and bone. The glyphs along the walls glowed with each syllable. Aldric and Sabrine strained to understand, feeling the timbre of loss, fury, and hope entwined in the chant. It painted an unfinished portrait of sacrifice and defiance that stirred something primal within them. When he finished, the bone avatar turned back to them, posture slumping slightly. This is the song of the first rebellion, sung from bone, he explained. Now you bear its echo. Elseborn, the choice is yours, will this cycle end with us, or with you? With a breath that sounded like 1,000 sighs, he dissolved into a swirl of dust and bones. The chamber fell silent, save for the final echo of the verse. One strophe of that rebellion's song had burned itself into their memory. Outside, the wind howled through the cracked hatch, carrying a faint echo of the bone song's last note. Aldric and Sabrine climbed back up to the hall above, changed, burdened with the weight of the first uprising's legacy, and uncertain whether to trust each other as shadows of the past lingered between them. Chapter 16, Heirs of Discord. Location, Twilight Camp, shadow of the icebound peaks. A cold fire sputtered in the hearth as Aldric and Sabrine sat opposite each other, faces half-lit by amber flicker. The blood-crimson banner lay folded at Aldric's feet. Cries of distant night owls echoed through the forest of frozen pines. Each felt the weight of sleepiness and the weight of destiny tugging at their bones. Silence stretched between them, thick as the mist curling around the camp. Finally, Sabrine broke it softly. We cannot wait here much longer, she said. The wall draws nearer with every step. We should move at first light. Aldric's jaw clenched. We go when I choose, he replied, voice low. I've led us this far, I intend to see this through. You have the banner now, sister. I have the burden of command. Together, we will rally the clans. My clan or yours? Sabrine shot back. You say we, but your tone sounds like I'm your subject. Her anger flared like the firelight. I thought you had honor, but perhaps it's just ambition in a new face. Aldric's eyes darkened. Honor? I see fire in yours too, but fire only consumes. The bone avatar's words ring in my ears, earn it or be buried. I earned this when I found the banner, long before you even believed it existed. I believed it. Sabrine stood, anger igniting her cheeks. She slammed a gauntlet into the earth. The ground cracked beneath her fist. Don't claim victory as if it's yours alone. I might not have drawn the banner, but I blazed the path to it. Every step you took, I walked first. Aldric sprang up, hand on his sword. Watch your tongue. I risked my life for this banner. Our father's blood calls it ours. Father's blood? Sabrine advanced a step, shadows dancing in her eyes. Our father left no will, no word. The claim died with him. This banner belongs to the people, not to you or me. So you'd throw away everything? Give it to the first clan that bows to empty promises? Aldric spat. I'll not have our freedom sold like a trinket. Between them, the fire crackled in tense silence. Then Sabrine slowly sheathed her dagger. You won't listen to reason, she said quietly. Stay here if you must and lead empty parades to ghosts. I will do what must be done. Aldric tensed. This is folly, he said. Put that away, Sabrine. No, she drew her sword from its scabbard. One of us must be ready to fight. I see now the mask has fallen. Between them, the fire flared. Aldric drew his own blade with a hiss. I won't spill our blood tonight, he growled. Sabrine shook her head. No. If one of us must die, it should be me. But I will not yield. The clash of steel rang out under the moon. Sparks flew as sword met sword, anger igniting each stroke. They fought fiercely, brother against sister, each strike fueled by the years of pain and duty. For a single moment, each saw in the other's eyes a reflection of the time dragon's prophecy, a mirror of doubt and destiny. Then, just as suddenly, the blades clashed point to point and halted. Both panted, hearts pounding as if in time with a savage drum. They stood locked, inches apart, spent fury in their eyes. I won't kill you, Aldric said, voice cracked with relief and regret. He stepped back. Sabrine lowered her guard. Not after this, he said, sheathing his sword. We both lose if one of us dies. She watched him, chest heaving. No, she agreed quietly. We'll see this through, together. He gave only a short nod, gaze fixed on the dying embers. The campfire crackled back to life for a moment as tensions cooled. As dawn broke, Aldric gathered the banner of freedom, tying it to his pack. He turned east toward the rising sun. Sabrine cast one last glance back at him, then took the trail that veered north. They would meet again at the wall, but for now each would walk alone, both an ally and a rival to the other. Chapter 17, The Frozen Songs. Location, the frosted expanse. At the ice wall at last the world leveled itself against them. Dawn's rosy fingers revealed a vast barrier of ice that split the earth as far as the eye could see. The ice wall loomed above the frozen expanse, a glistening rampart of crystal as tall as mountains and stretching beyond the horizon. Its surface shimmered with ancient runes of frost. Aldric and Sabrine stood together at its base, wind hurling snow at their faces. For a long moment neither spoke. The banner fluttered lightly in Aldric's grip, its crimson stark against the colorless wall. Between them stood their greatest challenge yet. Behold, Aldric whispered, voice trembling. The edge of the world. Slowly, thunder rolled behind them. Two colossal forms emerged from the drifts, frost giants, ancient as glaciers and 10 times as tall. Their skin was pale blue-streaked granite, eyes like molten silver. Each bore weapons carved from mammoth bone. One wore a crown of ribs, the other a collar of icicles. They exhaled frosty breath that crackled in the air. The giants surrounded them in a silent half-circle. Fear not at both siblings, but Sabrine stood taller. One giant raised a club, the other lifted a gnarled horn carved from dragon bone. Deep voices, rolling like distant avalanches, rumbled through the cold, ice-warden, deep and gravelly Elseborn airs. Why do you come to the frozen threshold? By what right do you raise this banner? Explain your purpose, or see your name silenced in the storm. Aldric stepped forward. His glove grip whitened around the banner's pole. We are the children of rebels, he said clearly. We come for truth and the songs of our past. We carry the banner of freedom, legacy of the first uprising. We ask passage or wisdom. The giants exchanged looks that shimmered with frost. The second giant, voice echoing like cracking ice, rumbled. Then speak the first verse of their song, that we may know you are true of heart. Startled, Aldric glanced at Sabrine. The Bone King taught us one stanza, he said. Taking a breath, he began the verse, by crown of lead and flame of sorrow. We rose beneath the frozen stars. Our voices broke the silent morrow. And braved the night behind the bars. Though phantoms fall, and tyrants scorn. In freedom's light our souls are born. The last words echoed off the ice, and the giant's eyes glowed brighter. For a moment, silence fell. Then the golden horn lifted to the giant's lips. They responded with a voice both tender and powerful, brave children of cold, you remember. With your blood our truth is known. Take in the songs of then and ember. No soul of the past will here be lone. Carve in the ice each final story. So you may learn both pain and glory. The horn's notes faded, and a hidden crevasse split the ice wall before them. Pale blue light burst from within. The wall revealed a spiral of ice-carved glyphs and sculptures, each depicting moments of the First Rebellion, pale warriors standing against a burning sky, spectral banners unfurling in frozen fields. Giants moved aside, beckoning. Sabrine stepped forward into the vast alcove. Her breath hitched as she beheld the carvings. These are the memories of our people, she murmured. A second giant, voice soft as falling snow, spoke, listen now. We are the bards of ice, custodians of what was. In these halls lie the ancient songs of your ancestors. Learn them, carry them. From the icicle-laden walls, a haunting melody arose, a choir of cold winds and dripping water that somehow formed words on the breeze. The siblings stood entranced as the whisperer, an icy presence in the air, sang another verse. Song of the First Rebellion, Part 2. In silent night we found our courage. Beneath the moon of silver tears. We broke the chains, became the scourge of tyrants' doubts and pilgrims' fears. And on this wall our story gleams, etched in ice from shattered dreams. Tears froze on their cheeks as the song faded. The runes glowed briefly, then dimmed. Aldric and Sabrine kneeled in the snow, grasping the ground that had known their ancestors' footsteps. The giants watched silently, guardians turned to witnesses. When the echoes died, Aldric rose, looking at the ice-etched songs with reverence. Sabrine touched the cold glyphs. They wanted us to remember, she said quietly. The Ice Warden lowered his horn. His face was inscrutable. You have heard the song, he said. Now remember. The First Rebellion gave them hope, and gave us their sacrifice. Go forth, children of freedom, and forge a new dawn before the first light fades. With that, the alcove sealed itself once more. The ice shell crept up from the ground, hiding the carvings again. Only the knowledge in their hearts remained bright. Outside, Aldric and Sabrine embraced, the ice wind whipping around them. The journey beyond the wall lay open, and they walked it with the songs of their past guiding them into an uncertain future. Chapter 18, Threshold of Elsewhere. Location, the frozen expanse. Beyond the ice wall, Aldric's boots crunched through the thick frost as he climbed the jagged slope of the ice wall, the boundary of the known world. Beside him, Sabrine's breath painted ghost-white symbols in the air, guiding them through the thinning barrier like a veil of twilight. When they crested the wall's serrated rim, the world shattered. Below lay a fractured expanse of starless night and warped geometry, floating islands of ice draped in rusted metal arches, rivers of molten obsidian coiling through valleys of crushed glass, and distant skies swirling with impossible constellations. The silence was vast and unnatural, broken only by the distant hum of something mechanical awakening from slumber. Aldric clutched his sword, eyes wide. The air tasted of ancient iron and static. This isn't our world, he whispered, voice echoing strange. Sabrine stepped forward, robes glowing faintly. No, she answered softly, it's somewhere else, a forgotten dream made real and broken. They advanced into the surreal landscape. The ice underfoot shifted like liquid mercury, reflecting skies that bled sideways into the ground. Ruined statues stood sentinel on tilted plinths, skeletal warriors with half-melted armor, their eyes hollow voids peering from distant centuries. Time itself felt unstable, echoes of thunder that had never happened rolled across distant peaks, and shadows leapt both forward and back. A branch of icy black steel arched overhead, murmuring in a dead language. Sabrine pressed a palm to the metal, feeling faint pulses. It's calling us, she breathed. Aldric nodded grimly, lifting a torch. Light revealed runes carved into the steel, warnings in tongues long forgotten. This broken land was old beyond reckoning. An uneasy feeling crept into their hearts, whoever walked here had shaped destinies long ago. The machines in the distance throbbed with dormant power, and somewhere beneath the shattered spires, Aldric sensed eyes watching. Stay close, he muttered. And together they walked on, deeper into the fractured dream. Chapter 19, Iron Valhalla. Location, the ruined sanctuary they walked on through twilight wastelands, guided by the distant hum. Monumental arches of broken machinery loomed over jagged horizons, and strange lights flickered in pools of molten glass. Ancient echoes clawed at their minds, whispers of voices long dead, speaking in riddles of blood and honor. It wasn't long before they stumbled upon the Machine Valhalla, a vast, ruined sanctuary half buried in the ice and metal of ages. The structure was a cathedral of iron and ice, spires and pylons strewn with shattered helms and rusted banners. Massive gates of dented steel lay open, revealing halls lit by flickering blue fire. Within, the faint outline of a gigantic metal tree creaked, its trunk woven from cables and bone, its branches ending in lanterns of imprisoned souls. As Aldric and Sabrine entered, ghostly sentinels emerged from the shadows. They were the remnants of old timelines, spectral warriors donned in fractured battle armor fused with clockwork. Their hollow eyes flickered with dying courage. One lifted a bloodied sword and spoke in a voice like grinding gears, "Why do the living wander the deadlands?" Sabrine stepped forward cautiously, feeling the hairs rise along her neck. Another figure, a knight with a shattered visor, gestured mournfully to the halls of fallen heroes. "We are echoes," he rasped, steel and shadow entwined. "Warrior minds preserved by machines, when the world turned to ruin. Here we watch and wait for gods who will never come." Aldric's hand dropped to the hilt of his blade. "What happened here? Who built this place?" he demanded. The spectral sentinels answered with silence and static. In the center of the hall, a hemisphere of cracked crystal held holographic images of soldiers charging endless battles across ruined cities. Each figure paused as Aldric and Sabrine approached, eyes ancient and weary. They realized the truth: this was a Valhalla not of glory, but of sorrow. An ancient AI had harvested the souls of the fallen, binding their consciousnesses to this place. The warriors here were trapped between life and death, their memories etched on machines. In a side chamber draped in ice-stained banners, Aldric found an inscription in forgotten runes. Sabrine's lantern cast moving shadows across a stone sarcophagus embedded in circuitry. She ran her fingers along the sigils, a name scratched in the metal, almost erased: Aethoria. A chill ran down her spine. Beyond the hall, they found it, a sealed crypt of black stone and wires, entwined with ritual bands of starlight. Something powerful was entombed within. Sabrine felt the air pulse with a heartbeat not her own. Aldric exchanged a grim look with her. Whatever rested there was more alive than any machine. It was waiting. Chapter 19, Iron Valhalla. Chapter 20, Aethoria Awakened. Location: the heart of the Valhalla. Aldric and Sabrine stood before the sealed crypt, their breaths billowing like mist. The stone and steel sarcophagus glowed with runes of cold blue fire. With trembling hands, Sabrine traced the sigils. The air grew electric. Suddenly, bands of starlight wrapped around the tomb snapped, splintering into shards of glowing crystal. A thunderous pulse rolled through the hall as runes on the walls flared white-hot. The heavy lid slid open on its own, revealing Aethoria inside. She was half encased in swirling wires and ice, skin pale as starlight, eyes closed. When she opened them, darkness spilled forth, yet they burned with ancient purpose. Hair like onyx water drifted around a crown of faint circuitry. Her gauntlet hands sat on her chest, still clutching an arcane lattice of gold and wire, a sigil of unimaginable power. Aethoria spoke without moving her lips, her voice echoing in the very marrow of their bones. "At last, the children of elsewhere have come," she intoned. It was a name neither had heard, but one Sabrine's blood recognized. Aldric squared his shoulders. "I am Aldric of Keth, and this is Sabrine of the North." "Who are you, that sleeps beneath stone?" Aethoria's gaze flickered through centuries. "I was the keeper of warriors, the bride of the first dream, the last hope of the Machine Valhalla. But I was betrayed, entombed in a ritual at the fall of the old world. I have awaited rebirth while the warriors in this hall dream of their deaths." She rose, lithe and towering, though the silence that bound her still echoed around her like chains. The lattice of gold glowed between her palms. "We are linked," she said, voice gentle yet vast. "Your arrival untethers the seals. The Valhalla stirs. With a solemn gesture, spectral armor and weapons along the walls faded, kneeling in reverence. Aldric bowed slightly, awed by the power in her bearing. Sabrine stepped forward, curious. "You were buried here with that Codex. What is its purpose?" Aethoria's lips curved into a serene smile. "This is the Heartsteel Codex, a key to worlds beyond time. It bound me to this place, granting me eternity, but trapping my will. I chose this fate to shield the last heroes from oblivion." The crystal lanterns dimmed, and the Machine Valhalla groaned as if waking from a long nightmare. Around them, the preserved warrior mind stirred. Ghostly figures in battered armor reached out, whispering names and memories. Aethoria raised a hand, and a wave of calm radiance swept through the hall, soothing the tormented echoes. She turned to Aldric and Sabrine. "Now that I am free, I may guide these souls home," she whispered. Yet her eyes held something else, an ancient sorrow and longing. "And perhaps find peace of my own." The hall felt smaller somehow, the weight of countless years pressing in. Aldric and Sabrine exchanged a look. They had found more than a legend. They had awakened an Elseborn. The shattered spire. A pale sky bled across the jagged horizon as Aldric, Sabrine, and the newly awakened Aethoria emerged from the Machine Valhalla. Before them soared the shattered spire, an obsidian needle riven by lightning, crowned with floating fragments of its own architecture. Time itself seemed fractured around it, corridors looping back, staircases vanishing into thin air, and echoing bell tolls with no source. They crossed a broken bridge of suspended clockwork gears, each creaking underfoot like a dying heartbeat. Sabrine paused at the midpoint, gazing down into the abyss where memories of fallen cities drifted like wrecked ships. "Here lies the world that once was," she whispered. Aethoria's voice floated beside her. "And here is its reckoning." At the spire's base, phantom knights in half-forged armor stood vigil. Their eyes glowed with fractured starlight, their blades hung reluctant at their sides. Aldric lifted the banner of freedom high. The knights knelt, offering silent approval. Aethoria placed a skeletal hand on the spire's broken door. It shattered into motes of light, revealing a staircase that spiraled upward into dissolving clouds. Inside, every step replayed visions of the past, the forging of the first gates, the massacre of the Phoenix Riders, the birth of Else itself. At the summit, a chamber of suspended mirrors awaited. Each mirror reflected a possible future, some bright with reborn kingdoms, others drowned in eternal night. The trio stood at the threshold, knowing their choice here would unravel or reweave fate. The chorus of ancients. Within the spire's chamber, the mirrors hummed like a choir of lost souls. Aethoria approached one that showed her own broken crown restored, her eyes filled with compassion rather than sorrow. She reached out, and the glass trembled, showing instead the ruin of Else, consumed by unchecked power. She recoiled. Sabrine and Aldric moved among the reflections. Each mirror spoke to them in whispers. Sabrine saw herself leading an army beneath a black sun, Aldric saw endless battles he could not win. Their hearts pounded as the chorus of voices rose in a spectral song. Aethoria raised the Heartsteel Codex, its lattice of gold igniting the chamber. The mirrors glowed white-hot, then shattered in unison. The shards coalesced into a spectral projection, the first council of the fallen, ancient rebel leaders long dead. Their faces were masks of bone and light. They spoke in a thunder of voices. "Elseborn heirs, you carry our blood but not our wisdom. Will you forge freedom, or forge new chains?" The chamber trembled. A single shard coalesced into a crystalline piano, keys of bone clicking themselves. Aethoria played a single note, the storm outside stilled. Aldric and Sabrine fell silent. The echoes of the past demanded their answer. The Trial of Echoes. Descending from the shattered spire, the trio found themselves in a colonnade of statues, knights in starlit armor, swords lowered in perpetual salute. At the far end stood a dais with 3 chalices, one of ice, one of fire, one of living wood. Aethoria spoke, the Trial of Echoes. To prove your hearts, you must taste the past. Aldric drank from the chalice of fire. Visions of his father's last battle burned behind his eyes, his father's dying roar, the banner slipping from his grasp. Aldric fell to his knees, tears steaming on his cheeks, as the pain of inheritance seared in his soul. Sabrine drank from the chalice of ice. She saw the moment she abandoned Aldric for pride, watched her brother's betrayal take form in anger. She collapsed in a shiver of regret, mourning the bond she severed. Aethoria drank from the chalice of living wood. She relived her own entombment, every moment of hope draining from her flesh, the betrayal that sealed her fate. She wept tears of sap and sorrow. As their visions ended, the chalices shattered, and the statues wept starlight. A corridor of living vines unfurled, guiding them onward. Their burdens felt lighter, yet each carried a mark of pain they could never forget. Beyond the fracture, they emerged into a world undone. Forests grew upside down from the sky, rivers ran backward, and two moons hung at opposing horizons. This realm was called the Fracture, a threshold between Elsa's broken shards. Giant forms stirred in the haze, colossal titan trees whose roots wove through clouds, lichen-choked ruins of impossible cities. From the mists, a rumble like distant thunder. A figure appeared, a colossal dragon made of living fractal light, scales refracting every color of twilight. It spoke, each word fracturing reality itself. Heirs of Else, you have walked the path of loss. Speak now your will. Aldric raised the banner of freedom. We will forge Else anew, free from the sins of gods and machines. Sabrine stepped forward. We choose life over oblivion, hope over despair. Aethoria extended the Heartsteel Codex. And I choose to guide, not imprison. The dragon's form rippled. So be it. Its roar rent the sky. A mirror door of light opened before them, a doorway to a realm uncharted. Beyond it, everything was uncertain. As they stepped forward, the spate of fractured winds swirled around them, pulling at their hearts. Behind, the fracture began to heal, shards of reality knitting back together, or perhaps creating something entirely new. Epilogue, a dawn unwritten. They emerged on the shore of a crimson sea, the new world beyond the fracture. The sky was pale gold and violet, strange suns glowed on the horizon. Aldric, Sabrine, and Aethoria stood side by side, ragged but unbroken. From the silent waves rose a chorus of unseen voices, laughter, cries, and songs of victory. A distant horn echoed, a rallying cry to the survivors scattered across realms. Aldric drew the banner of freedom, its crimson bright against the dawn. Sabrine laid a hand on his arm. We begin here, she said. Aethoria placed the codex upon the sand. Let this be the first page of the new chronicle. As they watched, distant silhouettes emerged on the shore, figures drawn by hope and memory, knights of time, spectral warriors set free, wanderers from fractured lands. They approached in reverent silence. A lone child, eyes wide with wonder, touched the banner. She giggled, a sound of pure life. A wave lapped the shore, carrying petals of luminous frost and flame. And far out on the sea, beneath pink skies, a distant dragon figure soared, neither time dragon nor shadow, but something new, a promise. On that uncharted dawn, the world held its breath. Beyond the fracture, the saga would begin again.